Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or good night to those who are going to bed. Welcome to my live. So, for those who are new to my channel, my name is Jose. Let's just call it that I like to coin the term microastrologer, where I work with over 200 asteroids and all that stuff. Based on co-created research, I've been guided to look into so many of them that it still keeps growing and growing and growing, and it's wonderful. Um, it gets really detailed, even to the point where sometimes if someone were to ask something like this here, and they don't know their time of birth, or they don't want to, you know, reveal their time of birth, usually that's a sensitive one, um, then that's fine. We go with your sun sign back into what's called I refer to as pop astrology, where you go into the magazines and newspapers back then, where it's just like, here's your horoscope, da da da. And it's created a lot of stereotype with astrology, which is fine. Um, it's just people wonder why there are stereotypes about astrology, and it's kind of like and all that stuff, right? And then the most recent one, for past 10 years, maybe, is like people know about their sun sign, moon sign, and ascendant, and that's kind of, I don't know. I mean, there's just also the stereotype that astrology is like purely science or like very left brain, which actually it's not. Um, it's how do I put this? Astrology is kind of both. It's left and right because it is divination, and most people find that when it comes to astrology, it's like it's all about the symbols. Actually, it's not. It's the wording and how you use the wording, how you work with the art of wording. It's like, I guess if you're into poetry, or if you like words, if you like playing around with words, just having fun with words, meaning just the beauty of meaning, the beauty of meaning making and all that stuff. That's really what astrology is. It's it's the divination of words, really, if you think about it. And but through astronomical data. And that's all it is. Where things go, where da, 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 da. I always tell people it's like, especially in the English language, it's like, for example, like I'll tell them, don't use the word Aries, use the word ram. And right away there's this click. And it's like, oh, ram. What does that mean? What do rams represent? What do they do? How do they behave? Where are they located? Those kind of things. And you start to get a feel from like, oh, so this is what it means. It makes more sense, right? This whole thing with the preservation of the Roman Empire has become too much, where it's people are waking up and you're saying like this ridiculous things like, I don't know. I mean, it's okay to have like borrowed words from, for example, like Latin and Greek and all that stuff, but at the same time, at the most fundamental, simple level, basic level, like childlike level, be like, what's that? What does that mean? But if you simplify something like, even something like when you read a book and you see, instead of saying it was, there was a switch from prologue to forward, right away, people who are native speakers of English, it's specifically, but not, including everyone else who've gotten to know the language, they see for as in for, like before, and in word. So like, there's this sort of thing. It sounds like, oh, it's something to do with saying something. There's a sort of a feeling of a knowing, inner knowing, because of the basic words, instead of saying prologue. What's prologue? I mean, if you're not, you know what I'm saying? So there's a, and then there's this like clashing between academia and non-academia, and it's like, oh goodness sakes. I don't know. I mean, like language should just be simple, and that's one of the things I do. By the way, I'm also a language teacher. And not because I'm a language teacher. I don't believe in teaching. I don't believe in regurgitation and spoon feeding information. I believe that everyone should come together and actually, like help each other and work together and experience life on its own, just like that. Hi, Preeti. Hi. So, and hello to Cinnamon. Okay, cool. Hi. Oh, there's three people. Okay, so welcome. Hi. So I know I sound like I'm on a rant right now, but it's not. It's really I think it's important for people to get back into their most basic fundamental nature. And it creates this sort of like bond with you and your inner nature and your connection to who you really are. I mean, yes, in even in form, right? We're all spirits, we're all source energy coming to learn of this life. And that's the beauty about learning in this life. It's like, but learning doesn't come from being told what to do. You can, but it's more like, well, are you really absorbing it? Is it, or is it just conceptual knowledge? Yeah, so that's kind of stuff. So, hello, another channel, Poppy. Okay. Um, so those kind of things, right? So, anyways, so how this ties into astrology is I love doing things that are more like my hands-on kind of stuff, my own research. And people might say, "Oh, it takes a certain personality and all that stuff." Yeah, but it also takes being present. Um, and one of the things I've been noticing is that because of the higher frequencies going up, um, people are realizing, how do I handle that stuff? How do I deal with that stuff? Right. So, oh, someone asks, what do you think of scientists saying there's no correlation between astrology and personality? Um, I don't know. I think they should do more research per se. They should, instead of research, more like experience it themselves. I think it's a personal experience. Here's an example. I one time there was this was shocking for me, but it was like beautifully wonderful. It was like surprising. I was like, oh my god, so I love astrology. So I live in a neighborhood where, well, actually in the city where construction is common. We have a thing here where I live that you was it 2 seasons. We have winter and construction, where they kind of just patch things up. They don't really fix it, and they don't use preventative measures per se. Maybe that's changing. I don't know. But so there's roadblocks here, and I usually get deliveries. I love getting deliveries because it's just more convenient, right? I'll admit that. Um, but when I was getting deliveries way back then, I couldn't get it this time because there was a roadblock. So I was just like, I was guided to think, okay, where should I go? So right away, the first thing that comes up because I've been doing my research already in this with asteroids. Came to Cerberus, and then it was like, Cerberus. So where is it in my chart? So I'm looking at my chart and my transits and all that stuff. So and it's actually opposite of my fourth house, which is the home, opposite of Mercury, which is deliveries. It's about transmission of information, sharing information, transmission, communication, expression. So that's Mercury. Like this is Mercury. So he was opposite of Mercury. And Cerberus represents roadblocks, barricades, hindrances, that kind of stuff, right? If you look at the mythology, you'll see why he's like that. He's also tied to things like the jaw, toxins in the body, poisons, lullabies, I think. Yeah. So um, when I looked at it, I was like, okay, it's opposite. Then I wondered, okay, based on astrological stuff like what do you call orbs, there's an allowance for specific 8-degree orbs. Um, so what happens is, yes, um, I waited for the propositional aspect, the degree, to be past 8 degrees of my own Mercury. So that means it had to be Cerberus had to be 20, what is it? 19 plus 20, 19 plus 8 is 27. So I had to count 27 degrees of Cerberus past the oppositional mark. If calculatively speaking, that's mathematical, but right. So I had to wait for that, and I looked it up on the ephemeris. For those who don't know, ephemeris is just the data of where planets are, the basic planets at least. At least you can get calculations of ephemeris for asteroids too if you go to astro.com. But anyways, the point is, I saw it, and then it was like approximately. I saw that it was going to be the roadblock would be over by 1 or 2 weeks. That's what I remember. The reason I'm saying 1 or 2 weeks is not precise because um, this was significantly important at that time. So I thought, okay, 1 to 2 weeks. So I looked it up and I was like 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, so I called. What I did was I looked at the chart and I saw that it was like, okay, it'd be over. So what I did was, okay, so the charts show that, but then I need a bit more evidence. So I called up the city. I asked them, so we have roadblocks here right now. Do you know when they'll be done in this area? I gave them the address, yada, yada, all that stuff. And they said, we're expecting it to be done in about 1 to 2 weeks. And there's a third part to this where so I said, okay, I'm not gonna order anything right now. I'm gonna wait about a week or so. I waited about a week. Lo and behold, gone. I was like, yeah, I can take it. And that right there was a confirmation to me that I was like, um, I don't know. The charts don't lie. I trust the charts. So this is one little thing that I found that's very profound and confirming. And as I see able to do that, my time is now 11:11. It's a love. Wonderful messages. Okay, so for me, the charts are. It's I don't know. I trust the charts. So, anyways, so hello everyone. Thank you for staying. Um, for those who are able to stay, especially maybe because electricity and internet is becoming wacky, all that stuff. Um, MJ, you're asking. I do Western. Okay, I don't know anything about Vedic. The only thing I know that's from Vedic astrology is my use of dwads in astrology, but I don't really use them because I kind of cheat through asteroids. I mean, like the asteroids give me tons of information already. But I'm still learning more about them because microastrology, as I call it, is more about getting into details and nitty gritty of things and getting straight to it. And instead of relying a lot on what I noticed was standard interpretation and delineation of charts, with asteroids, it helps me delineate the charts much faster because it's like, okay, this is what it is. Um, Sometimes it does take time to delineate because depending on what's where and what's here and there. That's kind of the stuff, but that's kind of basic. But without the asteroids, I feel kind of almost like I have to rely on kind of almost like survival astrology, which is still fine. I can still do it. It's just with asteroids, I noticed that if there are certain things, for example, like there's this one person I was reading for, um, and they were what was it? I read their chart and I was at their daughter or something like that. And then I saw that, did your daughter have like pregnancy complications? Like there was, I don't know if she had to go through abortion or something like that or something, crazy. And she's like, how did you know that? Well, it shows up in here. There was Lamea opposite her. It was opposite the client's ascendant. And Lamea represents abortion and children, loss of children, pregnancy issues. And most people don't see that in charts, or they do, but they have to look deeper into the chart and interpret it and be like, okay, where's this? Where's this? Right. But when I saw I had Lamea, I already done my research on Lamea. Boom. It's like, okay. I discovered later in my own chart that I had what is it? Cupido in my 8th house. And that's right away signified gout. I would get gout. I had to look that up deeper into like, how come I didn't see gout before? Oh, because I have my 6th house cusp in Sagittarius, which is Jupiter. But then it's also parts of my sixth house is in Capricorn, which doesn't really signify a lot, but it could because Capricorn rules. It's 6th house is one of the houses of health. It's read in medical astrology, and then because Capricorn is there, okay, that could be it. But that wouldn't have signified when I was younger. That wouldn't signify actual gout because it'd just be like here, 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 here. It's like a huge list. But with the asteroids going deep into that stuff based on the mythology, literally I saw, okay, inflammation, like something to do with the feet. Um, let me, I'll show you right here. So if you look up the story of Cupid, go to wikipedia.org, and look up Cupid, and you'll see. Look at the story, There's call this. It's significant when you can get gout there, because he talks about what is that? There's something about inflammation. What is that one here? Let me double check if it's actually Cupido or Eros. Let me look at my own chart. Cupido and Eros as asteroids are very similar, except I noticed that this is a pattern in the Greek original mythology versus the Roman version, is that the Roman version is nicer. Eros is the original version, so Eros has more of a serious, a darker sort of side to it. So here, so Cupido I'm seeing here. What is the story here? Talks about torches. Okay. And he has a torch there. So when it comes to the whole inflamed, right? Impassioned, inflamed, right? What is that one here? Eroticism. Okay, that's Cupido. Okay. Aha, here it goes. Here we go. So there was a on there was a depiction of him, and this is interesting because it's in Wikipedia. It just talks about the story. Not there's a story too. Like there's a story about the image of Cupid and all that stuff, and there's a statue and all that stuff. But what I noticed was that even though there's some sort of like inner intelligence going on, where even though Wikipedia just is in this case the parts of the story in Wikipedia is not about really the story or the myth. It's about where the statue was. They talk about things like works. It says here works by Murtola, something about in Rome, something like that. Described it took up the challenge with his 1608 Sleeping Cupid, a disturbing depiction of an unhealthy, immobilized child with jaundiced skin, flushed cheeks, bluish lips and ears, and emaciated chest and swollen belly. So I thought, and the wasted muscles and inflamed joints. Inflamed joints. And we're thinking inflamed joints, that's arthritis. And then I looked at my own chart. I'll show you what my chart looks like here. So here, right here, Cupido right here. Cupido is in my 8th house. The houses of health in the medical astrology is the 12th, 1st, the 6th, and the 8th. For those who know more about astrology. So that right there is showing me, I know, and it's square to Mars as well, which is also about which is also about pain, and which is also about accidents. Cupido is right there, and Cupido is in Pisces. Pisces in medical astrology rules the foot, the feet. You see the magic there? I don't know. I don't know about you, but for me, I do. Okay, so that's what I say. Okay, so there you go. So I thought that was just an interesting, very highly interesting thing, at least for me, because it's just like, oh my god, right? So if you look up, I'll show you. Let's look up here. I'll show you what I mean by that. I'll give you the evidence right here. Let's just go to Wikipedia, and I'll show you. YouTube, inflamed. I think it's in Wikipedia, or is it? Hold on. What did the thing on? Caravaggio. Maybe it was here, or was it? Hold on. With myth. Where did I find that? Oh, it was in. Maybe it was in Eros. Caravaggio. Hold on. Let me look this up. What is a Mythopedia? Let me back here. 1 second, guys. Caravaggio. what was the text here? I'm going to copy and paste the actual quote from the one that I got, and then we'll get to the page. Here you go. Complete analysis of Sleeping Cupid. Okay, look at that. Right? Sleeping Cupid. I don't know if you can see that. Right? So there you go. So there's the, and then there was, sorry, I'm going to base it on, take out Caravaggio, and I'm going to look up. Aha, here we go. It is back to Wikipedia. So I was right. So Cupid itself, not Cupido, sorry, Cupid. And if you look up John, this, here we go. See, I'm going to copy, I'm looking up right there. You see that? What I just said, immobilized child, when flame joints, right there. So, I don't know. I don't know about you, but for me, that's a sign of like, it was intended. I mean, this is why I'm doing what I do. I do what I do, and I love it. It's just like, and recently I just added a few more asteroids. So it's, I don't know, it's a lot of asteroids, asteroids, centaurs, and dwarf planets. I'm actually going into now quasars and all that stuff. So, all right. So I know that I did say that I would read for someone one reading per person. If anybody has any questions about whatever it is, ask me, ask away. Do type it in the comments as I talk. So we'll see what happens. If you're willing to share your data, then help me, so that I can read your parts of your chart, depending on your question. Sometimes, most of the time, people give me like general questions. So what happens is that it becomes more general, and the more general it is, the longer the reading. Just to let you know, that's just how it goes, because I need to pinpoint exactly what the question is. So if you have any questions, let me know. Maybe it's just about astrology, maybe it's about your life, or maybe questions about stuff. I don't know. Let me know. Type it in the comments or the chat, and then I will, yeah, do what I can. Let's see, I'm going to close that tab. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I'm being serenaded by a jackhammer now. Oh, glad this is a chat thread, or I would have to scream. Oh, serenaded by a jackhammer. Are they doing construction as well? Oh, you said because you're in New York. Okay. Yeah, I know. I guess because it's like, when you have sensitivity, um, I can understand that. I don't know if you saw, yeah, no neighbors destroying their nature. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's another thing, right? It's like check relationships. Is it something? Uh, yeah. Well, with the nature thing, cinnamon. Um, it's, yeah, I don't know. There's that whole old system where people are still fixing their yards to look like something that is unnatural. I don't know. I don't agree with that. But I mean, I live in it right now, and I feel like, ugh. For those who know permaculture, great. I'm learning about permaculture right now. So, to answer the next question, Preeti says, "I'm not able to track relationship." Okay, let's see what we get here. Yeah, we could look that up, Preeti. Um, do you want to share your data? Um, because that's very specific. That's, well, I wouldn't say specific, very well specific enough, I would say. Attracting lovers, right? So that I know where that goes. So what's your, yeah, just your time of birth, date of birth, and your place of birth. Every astrology chart requires time, date, and place, whatever it is. If it's tied to a person, it's their time. If it's their date, time, birth, yeah, date of birth, place of birth, and time of birth. If you know your time of birth as close as possible, that would be exact. That would really give the actual reading. Like it'll be like an actual reading. Okay. Okay, let me put that in here. Hopefully we don't get cut off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my own. Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. Actually, well, you already typed it in. It's fine. Oh no, maybe because it's just going to be in the chat. I'm not going to show it just in case. Put that in here. You want me to use your actual name, like it says here, Preeti, or what do you want me to use? What? Sorry, actually, Preeti, what year? What year is that? And I'm assuming you're female. I don't want to assume they're asking for that. Okay, sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I'm going to do right now. And I'm going to, if we get cut off, if we get cut off, I'm still going to be putting in the recording of this is recorded, okay? So if we get cut off and you get cut off, whatever it is, it'll be in the recording. So just go back to it just in case, okay? 10:15 p.m. Okay, and then, okay, let's start with Preeti first. MJ, you just want me to call you MJ? And MJ, like MJ, I'm assuming you're female. What should I put? Okay. What is that one? 7:35 p.m. Okay, I got MJ. Okay, good. And then Cinnamon. What do you want me to put? What's your name I'm putting in here? Okay. Sure. Were we in the same circle the other day? I think I was in the circle with you. I don't know. Is that you? I met someone else named Cinnamon, and then I wasn't sure. Uh, like it was a mediumship circle. Uh, July 5, 1965. Providence. Sorry, getting confused. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi. Okay, welcome again. Okay, so 12:16 p.m. And it says here. Rhode Island. Providence. Okay, sorry. I'm much slower now than before, so pardon my slowness. Oh, come on. Oh, here we go. Okay, so July 5, 916. 12:16 p.m. Okay. 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 So let's go with Preeti first. She's the one who asked first. Okay, I'm gonna go with that order. Okay. So Preeti, you asked tracking relationships. Okay, let's see what we get here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with basic astrology. I'll have to take a look at what's in your seventh house, actually, as I do this. Okay. The seventh house is tied to what we attract. Okay, I see here. Okay, so you have your descendant in Virgo. So to me, that means that first of all, that you grew up in a family that was very much like calculative, very much like there's a lot of criticism there. So for you, that was what you were that's what you were subconsciously seeing, or rather subconsciously formulating as you got older. So when you were in your formative years between the ages of 0 and 7 or 8, um, you were starting to get that sort of like in order to how do you call it? In order to be of survival, in order to survive and be safe in an environment that you were in, you had to succumb to and follow what they wanted, follow what the family wanted, environment wanted. So you had to suppress that part of yourself that was also, you know, into pure things, like very Virgo energy, like pure things, not calculator, but like very my curious mind, kind of in very just, and also about like doing things in a specific, like gentle way, where it's about the virgin and its purity. It's about having to connect with one's own like earthly self, like your earthly self. But instead what happened was what you're perceiving unconsciously was that the people you were surrounded by were very critical. It just became kind of more on the dark side of things, or rather, it became unconscious behaviors. And so you didn't like that. So what happened was you did the opposite, and your subconscious was going, "I'm going to present myself, or rather, to the world as a person who is very open and spiritual and accepting and unconditional." Whereas in that case, when you were growing up, you grew up in a family or environment that was the opposite, very conditional. It's like it has to be this way or not or whatever. And so what happened was, um, there's a lot of part of you that resisted that. And so what that does, it actually attracts people that way. What you resist in yourself, which is your opposite side of Pisces, which is the opposite energy, which is like pedanticalness, criticism, looking at every single detail, being obsessed with perfection, puritanism, if that makes sense, that kind of stuff, right? So you still attract those kind of people in your life, lovers specifically, because there's a part of you that has resisted it. And I know that sounds weird, but this is part of shadow work. This is not just shadow work. It's not just some sort of technicality or technical or methodology or whatever it is. We all live in a mirrored universe. We all go through that stuff. People mirror onto us what we need to learn and we own in ourselves. Sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow because people we say, "Well, I'm not resisting my stuff," but actually, it is true. Like I still to this day, I kind of still attract people who are kind of insensitive, not because they're insensitive, but they're what other people show you is something that you have to accept in yourself. In other words, finding the gift of that aspect. So people who are insensitive, for example, who don't who are also maybe controlling, very limiting, who are very like cold, those tell me right away that it's like, oh, I have to embrace my inner coldness, my inner insensitivity. But how can I reword that? What can I do to go into that? Well, first of all, I would write down the qualities that I see in them in that regard and then twist it and say, what is another way of calling insensitivity? It just means more self-oriented, focused on my desires, more ambition. My descendant is in Capricorn. So that means it's all about ambition, focus, drive, that direction, practicality, hands-on things, experiencing actual experience. That stuff I have those qualities. So I now attract them less than before, right? People who are more sensitive, like for example, like my current boyfriend, for example. He's sensitive, but he also has a bit of that side where he's kind of insensitive. But at the same time, I'm learning from that as well. So how to attract that kind of stuff? You keep if you continue to attract that, I pardon me. Okay, sorry, 1 second there, cinnamon. So right, so attracting that kind of stuff means that you have to accept that in yourself. That's one basic way I could point out rather. Um, Let me see what else I see here. I want to see what's in your seventh house, but let's see. It says here that again, it's still probably drawing like maybe jealous partners. Let me go here. Hera, I have the asteroid here. There's probably a lot of judgments, obligations to family as well. So there's a lack of authenticity, right? Maybe people who are self-righteous, there's a lot of shame, possessiveness, self-worth stuff, like maybe a lot of scheming, and it feels like that. It's kind of like maybe they're overprotective. That's what I'm seeing here. So what needs to happen there is you have to learn to find the gifts of that qualities that you see in them with yourself. Okay. So that's their problem. That's their issue. Whatever they're doing, that's their shadow. You don't need to be those things, but you can also be those things. Meaning, there's an aspect of, for example, how would you reword jealousy? How would you reword what do you call this? Possessiveness. What I said earlier, schemes. That's because someone who schemes and someone who does things and manipulates things in hiding is because they're afraid themselves. They're afraid of getting caught. They're afraid of being shown that it's fear. A lot of the things we do where we overcompensate for things or we push the boundaries too much or we don't, we resist it and we're kind of like this sort of like that. That is out of fear when we're fearing something. So we have to go past the fear. We have to face it. What are we afraid of? What are you afraid of? So in this case, let me look into your chart. I'm going to look into your Saturn. A lot of your Saturn, okay, here we go. It's retrograde. So constant fear that you go through is sharing your own beliefs and your own philosophy pretty. It's tied to your freedom. It's tied to being able to be yourself. You're afraid of showing the world exactly who you are. In fact, it's your Saturn is actually square your ascendant. So that means you're afraid of being free because you see that the world, especially those who are like the teacher role, people who are in teaching roles, people who guide you, people who support you, those kind of things. And foreigners as well. This includes foreigners or everyone in the world, business people who you work with in business, uh, philosophers, like I said, teachers as well, just general, like your own philosophy where your fear lies there, but it's constant, and you kind of like. But then there's a part of you that kind of questions that, and it's like you want to go beyond that, and when you want to break the barrier and say, what fears do I have to release? I'm seeing here though, it's trying to the sign here, it's trying to your to Mercury and Proserpina. So there's a part of you that has to adjust your thoughts and say, go back to your inner child, go back to seeing that, okay, well, that's their thing, that's their belief, right? So you can be of service to the world and yourself by allowing that it's like, well, that's their thing. That's not my thing. You have to face it with courage. When you speak, it says there's a lot of courage. When you speak, it's very in Leo. It says here, but Proserpina is tied to this one. Proserpina was able to let go of these things and see that by not letting go per se, but by accepting that just because a person is trapped in a certain place does not mean they can actually be trapped mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or based on their beliefs. We have to change our beliefs by adjusting what we perceive to be. And that comes with, what do you call this? I guess you can say, we have you guys heard of the revisioning process by Neville Goddard? It's a book. You don't have to read it. I haven't read it. But the basic thing I got from it is that when you go into inner child memories and that kind of stuff, you don't have to necessarily change the memory of the inner child stuff, but you can actually change your perception of it. The reason I mention the inner child stuff because it's very important. Much of our wounding comes from unhealed or parts of our childhood that were not addressed because we were told we can't feel this way, we can't do this, we can't all those rules, all those limitations, we couldn't shine. So we have to go back into this and say, okay, let's see what we can do about what is it the memories that what is it your inner child wants. So I would go into Teal Swan's work. Teal Swan is wonderful when it comes to healing, like shadow work stuff. I'll put it in the comments here. So look up her videos on like inner child, like healing emotional stuff. She has what's called parts work. She introduces what's called parts work. She also has a book called the completion process. Okay. And heads up on the completion process, there's people who have commented that she's copying the name. I'm just like, she just wants to call it. Who cares about what she calls it? That's not the point. The point is it actually helps go into inner child stuff. You don't necessarily have to follow the whole completion process, but it's going to the meditative process and following what your child wants. And literally you follow them. You have a resistance to the ego, the adult, go into that memory, go into like what is it. So if you feel something like PT, when it comes to something that you feel when it comes to relationship, like being rejected, being controlled, all that stuff, if there's a feeling that comes to you, go into a meditative process right away as soon as you can, and actually, practice the meditation, go into the breathing, and then follow if there's a child and ask before even asking yourself. Well, usually what would happen is one would ask themselves, when was the earliest I remember having this feeling? That can go into that as well. You can. But that'll also at least give you a clue in terms of what your inner child wants. There's a whole process to the whole completion process. There's someone also on YouTube that reads the completion process. I forgot what her name is. But basically, that's what it is. So you go into the memory and you want to really bring to the surface the conscious, right, into what that means, like what the inner child is telling you. I'll give you an example. I did a one meditation where I went into, what was that? I was feeling like, so what was it? My boyfriend was, I was worried about him leaving, and so that went into my memories of being abandoned, my parents, being there but not being there. Um, so I went into the memory, and then the one thing that my child wanted was, first of all, to be, well, every inner child of us, we all want validation. We all want to be accepted just for who we are. Because we were told, oh, you can't be this way, you can't be this way, you can't be this, you cannot cry, you cannot feel your emotions, you can't do this, la, 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 whatever. Because they carried on and then imposed onto us what they felt was, and knew and felt was a way to make you feel better. But we can't feel better unless we actually allow for the river to flow. A river has to flow, an emotion has to flow, and it will pass. But the resistance is from older people, the generations before us, who told us we cannot feel this way. So they tried to dam the river. They tried to say you can't feel this way because it's trying to appease them, make them feel good rather than you allowing the process to just flow. And then relief will come. That's where completion happens. But they were telling us like, no, we're going to block this and we're going to see, we're going to believe that it's complete. Does that make sense? Right. I'm trying to also summarize everything because there's two other people that had questions after you, Pretty. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. Um, Let me know more if you have any feedback. I usually prefer this in person, like a camera, like an actual like one-on-one, but that's the one I can see right now. So again, you have to embrace parts of yourself that you see in others. That's the key thing here. It's a mirror. It's shadow work. Okay. Okay. Yeah, quite some truth because it's only part of it. To be honest, I'm only reading parts of your tiny bits of your chart. It's like 1% maybe. So my readings can go for a long time. And I'm tooting my own horn here. I'm showing off, yes, because I've embraced that part of myself. It's like, okay, that my readings can go for a long time. Like the longest I've read was like 6 hours. We were exhausted, but it was good. It was like intense, but it was like good. We loved it. It was like, oh my God, all that stuff. But it's not going to go for 6 hours. I'm not going to read for 6 hours. You don't have to. Depends on the person. I'm just telling just letting you know, it goes into detail. So whatever questions. And here's the thing about astrology. It's just like with anything in life, you always go back to it. You always go back to it, right? Right. Ask yourselves, especially if a person is studying astrology, um, which by the way, I want to add to after this. I might announce it near the end, or you can come into my classes if you are interested in doing astrology. But these aren't classes where I'm going to teach you the basic stuff. You get to apply right away. But the trick is that I need people in there, so that way everybody gets to validate or confirm the information that the reader or the astrologer is reading their chart to confirm that. Just like in a mediumship or psychic circle, or you confirm. Can you give feedback? It's nice. It's active. I have like these cheat sheets, and I guide you through the whole thing. And all it is that's it. But how to really embody those things is through the direct experiences. We need the direct experiences, not necessarily because you're doing it. It's not really about doing, it's more about, are you connecting with that person? Memory is tied to emotions. The reason we remember things is because there were emotions tied to them. Our most fond, the memories that we're most fond of, or the more unforgettable memories we have, is because we had an actual connection with someone who was in it, even in the negative, right? Because we remember it, because it's like, oh, can't forget that because it was fun, it was joyful, it was. And again, even the negative stuff, we remember that because it's like, oh, I had so sad, da 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 da, etc. Right? We remember it because there are emotions tied to it. These are the tricks that many people don't really still talk about. It goes into the subconscious. The subconscious is the reptilian brain. This is where deep memory comes in. When I say deep memory, I mean automaticity. We learn this in pedagogy of languages and whatever. Well, that's what I learned, but forget the research. The point is that's what it is. Okay. So in these circles or events, I want to call them events, you can join them. I'll put it in the comments after this whole thing and check it out. But for now, we're going to go into the second reading. MJ, where are you most gifted and talented? Okay, let's take a look. Okay, first of all, I'm going to go into your, let's see here. There's a lot of things we can look at in terms of gifts and talents. It's pretty much everywhere in the chart. But I would go into your south node. That's because those are the most powerful ones that you get from past lives, because you already know them. That's usually where we get into in astrology, the south node. Let's go into this one. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, Okay. One of them is Hydra. Okay, I'm gonna go further. So what I do is I have a list of codes of asteroids. They're right beside each other, and I have to input them all into the chart, the manual entry. It's just a little spot in the stuff in the website here. Okay, let's see. What is that conjunct Chiron? Okay, so I saw one asteroid conjunct your south node. Metis. Oh, shape shifting. Okay, I'm seeing something about advising right away. There's something about advising, shape shifting. Okay, I got Metis and I have Hydra, Odin. Oh, MJ, you have Akash. Do you do Akashic records? Are you called to Akashic records? Do you ever do Akashic records? That's no, Odin. That's one of your. Well, I mean, as a spiritual modality, um, you can do that kind of stuff. You can read into people's past lives, present, future lives. Yeah. Okay, so I do see those three. So Phaedra, I saw Phaedra. I'm gonna actually look at. I need some sort of guide in my chart here. Delete that. Phaedra, Odin, and Metis. Metis was who was she? A Titan. Okay, first let's look at Phaedra. That's the first one I saw. So having gone through some sort of like shame in the past, and particularly when it came to, connection, genuine intimacy, the yearning for intimacy, shame with kin and loved ones, or collective beliefs, very paranoia, that kind of stuff. Extramarital. Those are the past. You've had to learn those things to actually get into this life now. So Phaedra is usually about that power, shame, and sex. That's her story. But what that means is that there's also understanding of truth in itself. If we were to look into your sun right now and conjunct your Venus, right, actually conjunct your Mercury and Pluto right here, you understand what it feels like to have had those experiences in the past life where you actually understand the depth of power. I love that because I see in here Pluto is like it's in right home in. Yeah. So you can do that if you want to. But I know that with your placement you have a lot of placement. You have a stellium placement directly into Scorpio. Fifth and sixth house are affected. So it's about how you enjoy, how you help others. But because your Phaedra here is actually, your Venus is square. Is it square? Phaedra? Yeah, South Node, Phaedra, Metis, and Odin. Um, Actually your Venus and your Sun. What happens is there's something to do with your father or fatherly figures that were kind of that relationship you had with them was, I would say, it's something to do with not in this life per se, but it could have been a hindrance to past life memory, or it's something that you actually still went through today. Or rather today, when I say today, I mean in this incarnation, this life. So you've had to learn through all those things. So the gift behind that is that you can be a whistleblower. Not that that's an actual gift for some people, but you can change things by exposing the truth. You can be of service to the world by rediscovering things through research. uh, Scorpio is good at research. Scorpio enjoys depth. Scorpio enjoys the taboo, enjoys the whole thing, like going into things. Like you can be, one of the things you can do, because actually your South Node, even these things you have here, is tied to. Check here. Is it within? Let me look at your third house cusp. I want to see if those placements are actually more towards the third house than it is the second house. Yes. So these have to do more with your learning. but part of it is tied to how you earn. It's part of how you earn money, how you your finances, or not so much finances, but like your jobs, like what your earning ability is. It's tied to what you value as well, your self-worth, what you put in, like what you possess. So a lot of these skills that you actually possess are part of you. But again, there's something to do with challenges you experience with father figures that maybe it feels limiting, right? So you're here to express all that sort of what you know about actual power as inner power. And so one of the things that you can have is that if you find a conviction within yourself to release certain things like internal corruptions, leaking of information, you don't have to do this. I'm just saying that's one of your gifts. You bring out the truth, right? That's one of your gifts. You just really go into the secrets of things like hidden societies, underground things like hideouts or secret passage or whatever it is, right? Um, Maybe you can actually, I don't know, have you ever thought of, do you enjoy panic? Oh, what do you call that? What do you call those? Not panic rooms, sorry. Yeah, safe room, panic rooms. I forgot what it's called. If you do those, that means you have this affinity for that. And if you doubt some of that stuff, it's totally okay. But you do have that ability. It's like one of those things. So being able to reveal things like that. I don't know if you've done any sort of homicide work, um, or if you do any sort of like psychic stuff, like remote viewing, or like being able to see what happened in the past and help solve cases that way. Um, that's one thing. That's one thing I can think of. But tying this to Metis, let's see. I think she is about shapeshifting. Yes, she is about shapeshifting, transmogrifications. Um, what is this one here? Yeah, advising, counseling, doing magic as well, prophecies. Okay. Um, being also impartial is one of your gifts as well, where you're not drawn to those kind of to people one way or another. You know how to stand your ground. You know how to have that sort of inner power, right? Um, and if you haven't honed many of it, or some of it, or even a little bit of it, or if you have most of it, that's great. Even if you haven't, that's still great. That's okay. You're here to learn, right? Metalwork is also part of this one. Arts and crafts, um, being working with surrogate mothers or surrogacy. Not that that's a gift itself. I don't know. It depends on the person. I'm just saying. Um, Working with people like who have like headaches in the medical field. Um, Also something to do with inducing truth, right? That's really tied to the Pfizer location, the chart in your chart. There's something about releasing drugs, releasing poison, toxins in the body. So if you work with, I don't know what that's called. It's like helping people get rid of toxins in their bodies, like a toxicologist, probably. That's like a one profession I can name off the bat. Or you can work with mutations, transformations, transmutations, working with, I don't know, ingrown anomalies. It could be energetic, it could be physical, it could be material. Anything to do with primordial space or inner space, single cell organisms, okay? Any sort of things to do also with infiltration, legal stuff as well. So illegal immigration, illegal kind of stuff like you know, cracking down on the actual truth, right? This also could also include like brain surgery, those kind of things. Okay, so pretty much what I said there, anything related to that as well is part of it. Okay. Medication medical field, if you're in medical field, great. You're pretty much on the path. Like, or rather, if that was something you did before. Um, so how does that ties into the North Node is what did I see here? Where's the North Node? Other things I saw with your North Node. Sirona, Lilith, Tisiphone, Quetzalcoatl. Oh, okay. Uh, Here you're learning. So those gifts that you have right now, your soul is calling you to go more into. working with humans, working with people, and sharing your gifts of the past to be able to access things. Um, it's just because you have this gift about you that's it's it's actually higher dimensional gifts. So what you can do with that is apply that to what you have, what to the world, being of service to the world, um, in these unique ways where you bring out the truth, right? A lot of it is tied to bringing out the truth, right? Um, so it could be that you could probably get into things like, um, what is this one here? Shamanism, some kind of priest position, internal affairs, um, something to do with writing as well, like book writing, growing mushrooms, psilocybin, those kind of stuff, cacao, chocolate, plants, plantation, fermentation, working with hallucinogenic properties, how you help people. Remember, I guess helping them to get rid of toxins in their body, but maybe also people who have been addicted to certain things. So helping them to step away from any sort of alcoholic behaviors, any sort of addiction, those kind of things. It also works with specific, like working with thanatology. I think it's like has something to do with the study of death. Stellar systems is also part of this, the galaxies. So any sort of extinction events, like why is it that it's not necessary to prolong life, but to find meaning in why we want to prolong life in the first place. Okay, that's what I'm seeing here with Quetzalcoatl. I'm also here working with Tisiphone. So Tisiphone is one of the Furies. So it's helping people work through their anger. Such things like horrors, like crimes, vengeance, third degree murders. Really bringing into society like what it going to the shadows. Really, shadow works probably you could go into that as well. So there could be a combination of things as well. You can figure out what a shadow is for why people commit crimes and why they do this and why they create more karmic things in their lives, why they might create more drama and all those things. If you're not doing that, that's great. That's part of the process. If you are, it's great. It's part of that as well. Anything that's actually super taboo as well. So for anything from like, the negative stuff like genocide, manslaughter, anything, cannibalism, prolicide, siblicide, patricide, impiety, those kind of things. Also falseness, like falseness is part of this one. Perjuries, those kind of things. So crime, anything sort of crime, like what is crime in the first place? Is it really a personal thing? Is it so that's part of those things. That's what I'm seeing here with Tisiphone. Okay. Lilith is also tied to shadow work as well. So that means that bringing out the truth in societies, in groups and people. And if that's part of those things that you probably question in yourself, it's like, I don't know if I could do that. It's okay. I would say take the time. But if it's something that you already do and it's kind of triggering other people, maybe it is. Um, I feel like it's something to do with like maybe the power struggles that you experience with what you enjoy and how you be of service to people is you feel probably have this sort of feeling that it might challenge you and probably gets in the way of your path. Well, sometimes you have to be on the dark side in order to be on the light side, if anything. And this isn't about sides either. This is about integrating what we learn from the darkness so that we actually see that there's fruits to be had from that. Just like any we just like we can't deny the fact that we shit, the fact that we poop and there's viruses in the world. It's a matter of like how is that? How is that handled? How is that treated? How is that, things like I was watching this episode with Elizabeth April, and she said that it's about was it? Well, it's really tied to shadow work, right? Like, oh, not Elizabeth April, it was through Lee Harris, so the other channel. He said that when he was channeling disease in this one interview, he was saying that disease were saying that viruses have existed throughout, you know, throughout this planet. It's existed throughout time, but it's more like how do we deal with that? How do we handle that? So there was the whole pandemic, the COVID thing, that it was planned. The virus did exist. The virus does exist, but it was used to make profit. So you see the corruption there, right? So for you, MJ, for someone who has that placement, a lot of the placements in Scorpio, you can bring that forward. You don't have to do it in public. You can do it in secret. You can work under, in the background and help people and help the world to reveal the corruption that is or that was, right? That's one of your gifts. Alternative medicine. Yeah, that's one of them. That's one of them as well. Yeah, because I was seeing something like something different. So you have the gifts for medicine, and you can see them. Odin, you can see them, see the timelines. Odin is about frenzied energy. He's about like higher knowledge. Um, so part of your meditation could be that you can talk to the deities or the representational archetypes in your life. Talk to them. Odin, talk to Odin. Talk to the Furies. If you want to, you can talk to. They might have that whole like, "What do you want?" I'm just kidding. I don't know. I've never talked to the Furies myself. So as an archetypal energy, right? What else did I say? Fire, Odin, and who was the other one? Sorry, come back here. Metis. So if you talk to Metis, she's the goddess of. Oh, is she the goddess of? She was a Titan. What was she the goddess of? She was an Oceanid. Okay. Wisdom, skill, and craft. Okay, that's what she was. Okay, she was a counselor. She's in deep thought. She knows about deep thought. Um, yeah. So anything to do with foreign things like foreign bodies. So alternative medicine could be that as well, without it being what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you have to go to an actual operation, you could do energetic medicine. That would be part of that. But I think it's more about the truth because it's tied to Tisiphone. What is this one? Any sort of obstruction in the system. If you are tied to medicine, that makes total sense. That makes total sense because your placement's close to the 6th house. Yeah, toxicity, maybe psychosis, some kind of like something to do to heal with that stuff. Oh, QHHT, that's a good one. If you've I get in trouble for a lot of, yeah, I know, that's fine. But that trouble could be just a trigger, right? Maybe you can reword it. And the gift of Scorpio is that it goes through stages of evolution in its own path, not necessarily by person, but in general, where it goes from the scorpion to the eagle to the phoenix, right? And that actually ties in with its decans in. So the first 10 degrees in astrology represents the Pluto element, which is about power struggles, the use and abuse and misuse of power, that kind of stuff, the very taboo stuff. The second portion of it comes through Neptune. Neptune is the release of that stuff. It's the ego. It just kind of picks and chooses, and it swims, and it needs to, but it kind of has to see things first and see if it's going to catch it, if it's going to grab it or not. And then the last part is in through the moon. It's the Cancerian part of Scorpio, which is more about nurturing, self-nurturing, basic meeting my own basic needs, working with my vibrations and seeing where things are. Do I choose this or do I choose that? It's very much tied to Artemis and Diana, which is like knowing your boundaries, but at the same time dying to what needs to be released. That's the Phoenix. That's tied to Cancer because Cancer rules the fourth house. Fourth house is about fame after death, and it's a house of endings. It's where we go back into our home self and truly internalize what is my true internal self. Right. This is the third stage and final stage of the evolutionary archetypal energy and evolution of the Scorpio archetype itself. So, I would say something to do with QHHT. I think that's energetic healing. It's alternative. I don't know. I'm just saying you could do other types that are related to QHHT, some sort of like hypnosis therapy, anything to do with toxins. Maybe tied to something like acupuncture. Um, well, that's on the physical level, but also energetic. So it's not invasive. Wow. It's not invasive surgery. It's not invasive manipulation of toxins, removal of toxins. Yeah. All right. I hope that answers your question, MJ. It's like there's a lot of gifts there, so it's good, and you have the ability to transmute things and also to morph things, shape shifting. I bet you in one of your charts, which we can talk about another time, you're probably in. Maybe you came from the constellation Lyra. We all have ancestral things from the intergalactic species everywhere. If you're into that stuff, I think you are though, but I don't know about other people. But yeah. All right. So we had the third question. Sorry to jump there, but MJ, I hope that answered your question. We're gonna go into Cinnamon's question, which was what's your question here? Money. What about money? Sorry, what about money, Cinnamon? What is your question about money? Hi, Rahul. I'll need the time, date, and place. If you have your time, date, and place of your birth, because it's tied to you, you can. Otherwise, you'll be really general. Okay, well, okay, Cinnamon, that's still very general. So what I'll do is I'll do what I can because that's a lot. Let's see what we get here. Where can you find it? Okay. How blunt do you want me to be, Cinnamon? Oh, I have to watch what I say. Oh, I see here. Okay. Your moon is elevated in the 10th house, in Cancer, but you have Capricorn tendencies as well. Career is important to you, security, and it's trying to your Neptune in retrograde in Scorpio in the second house, which is also trying to Chiron in retrograde with Saturn in retrograde in Pisces in the sixth house. So you might tend to you have this tendency to work through your what do you call this? In order for you to be happy to feel like happy in this life, you tend to have these like very grounded sort of imaginings of what money ought to be. Um, but you've always had to kind of question where things are for you. Is this real? Is this real? Is this real? You had to question your own beliefs about things. Um, but that also ties in with the wounding you've had about your connection to service to the world, or you want things to be, or you have these fears about ongoing repetitions and fears about being unconditionally accepted, especially those you work with. And so what happens is this triggers a lot of things in yourself. You part of that is also your um, the core beliefs you have about wanting to mm, your role in the family was a lot of it was tied to like, oh, she's hardworking, she's disciplined. You don't need to worry about emotions. But really, what it is that the eh, well, the world sees you probably as this person who's very secretive or very private, and they see you as like, but at the same time nurturing or nurture. But inside you, you don't really want to do. There's a part of you that doesn't really believe in that per se. So you have to balance where your core beliefs like not where they come from, but what they are with how the world sees you. And with that, that'll tie in with how you, I guess you can say, well, I don't see a connection here, but it is connected to that because our core beliefs are what, when I say core beliefs, I mean these are conditioned beliefs, right? So the conditioned beliefs you have are tied to, and I'm reading your chart by the way without the asteroids right now. So they're tied to your core beliefs are tied to being seen by your family as the one who is the one who's just very like ambitious, just a go-getter and being kind of drawn to like your career. But what happens is your career path, the world sees you as like, okay, this person who's secure and okay, but what they don't really see is that they don't see what degrees you're currently here. What they don't see is your search for a sense of security that has more to do with like founded in earthly things, like someone to prove to you that they can support you. Right, that includes jobs as well. You have here the cusp of your second house is ruled by Mars and Pluto. So, okay, you tend to be quite pedantic when it comes to very when it comes to your resources and your possessions. There's a tie to that, but you also want it to be, and you do it subconsciously. You do this very much subconsciously. Sometimes you may not know it, but you probably are partially aware of it. Um, it's funny because your Pluto and your Uranus is actually sextile Neptune. So what you can do with this one is bring into the surface, the conscious, what your dreams mean in terms of like power. Because Pluto generational Virgos, Pluto and Virgo here, that's what it says here, tend to want things to be pure. There's a sort of genuineness, a desire to be genuine with health, specifically with health, the little things, chronic illnesses, chronic things, everyday life, um, just the little things in general, and making sure that they're absolutely like perfect. But with Uranus here, it's almost like he wanted to create this foundation for something else that was completely different. But that what do you call this? That kind of contradicts some of the wounding you've had going into this life, where it's a lot of it's like, oh, I don't know, people will accept me. So subconsciously, what's happening is that you what do you call this? You don't you want it, but you don't get it, if that makes sense, right? Not to be all blunt here, but again, that's what I'm sensing here. But the way to work with this energy is to find not only the truth within what you do on a physical level, but also how you feel about it. Your moon is in, this shows me that your moon is in Libra, which actually rules your sun. That means that there's a sensitivity about you that is like very careful when it comes to things that you want. And you kind of weigh things in a lot. But sometimes weighing things too much is not going to be of much use if it's not going to move into a specific direction. Right. And I think that's part of what you come to resist subconsciously because you grew up in a family that was just like, maybe they were kind of insensitive. They were kind of just like, go, go, go. Maybe there's a lot of like, things weren't thought through as much. Is very kind of, what do you call this? What am I looking for? Very like spur of the moment, unplanned, kind of unpredictable as well. Very, there's a might be aggression as well, control, um, again, insensitivity. Like it's almost like you came from a background of like they just want you to do rather than So you grew up with this in your childhood years, like formative years, you've had to question your initiative. And it's like, should I take initiative in this one? Should I do this? Da, 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 da. Because your family or your environment that you were in growing up was like a little too pushy and like, or maybe too pushy. And you're just like, no, I want to take things the way I feel is right for me. Your moon is actually sextile your north node with Jupiter. That means you grow through this naturally. You grow through your emotions, how you're very much here to teach actually others how to learn and to expand and share your philosophy. The gifts that you have though in your past life is you already have this inner knowledge and inner knowing. However, the woundings you have in a subconscious beliefs about reformation, being of like actual change to the world is in conflict with your path because you have these beliefs, subconscious beliefs about how things ought to be based on what others want. So you want security, you have to find ways to work with what is reality for you in terms of like, yeah, yeah, right. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, that's a general path you're in. You have to. I have this line from one of my favorite movies called Under the Tuscan Sun. He says, "Live spherically," and what is it? Something about being not everywhere at once, but kind of directing your focus to where you want it to be because you are in charge of your reality, right? If you have a belief about yourself or that you don't have money, even if you say you have money, your beliefs will tell you otherwise. So you have to go into your beliefs. Dream, I would say, go do some dream analysis about money, what that means. Go into your dream analysis. When you go into a dream state, okay, so you go into a dream state, right? We'll talk about how going to deeper dream state, like and what it is. But when you wake up from a dream, or if you remember the dream right away, have a recording device beside you or write it down if you can. Usually recording devices are faster because you just speak to the device and you record it, right? Could be your phone, could be iPad, could be an actual like old tape recorder, whatever it is. Um, and record it and then analyze it later. Then go back to bed if you need to. However, if you wake up from a dream, naturally, if you wake up from a dream and it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Um, so a lot of it is tied to your beliefs. A lot of it is tied to, um, I would say there's a lot of subconscious overthinking about money. That's what I'm seeing here. Okay. So woundings comes from this as well. So I would say do the parts work I mentioned earlier. What are your beliefs about money? There's actually a video with Teal Swan called "What What Why Our Beliefs Around Money Has Nothing to Do with Money Itself." Okay, so I'll look it up right now. Here. She talks about abundance and how she. What is this one? How to identify change? No, that's not the one. Number one thing blocking your financial abundance. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Okay. Yeah, you can change your inner dialogue, and to be blunt here, sorry, Cinnamon, we can talk about it for days. Um, but eventually it has to be put into practice. Okay, so don't forget that. Just to let you know. Okay. All right. So I hope that answered your question. Where can you find it? That's very general. Because you're asking like where can I find it? Again, it starts within you. And I know that's weird, but if you think about things you've done, let me put it this way. Things take time. And the reason things take time is because that's the way nature works. We've forgotten as humans how to be natural. We've forgotten that being human is natural. So there's a part of us still today, many of us, that are identified, maybe not so much, maybe that we have these habits that we've created. So it starts with not only the little things, but also making habits or new habits that basically dismantle the old habits. So finding your beliefs about money can start with that. But in terms of like what action can you take? But instead of going for like belief into the action right away, you have to understand, first of all, not conceptually understand, forget conceptual understand. You have to go into the feeling what those are, what those beliefs are. Literally go into the feeling. How do I feel about this one? Instead of saying, what do I think about it? And belief, no, how do I feel about my these beliefs that I'm getting? Write them down. And what does that mean? Right? But at the same time, watch that video with Teal Swan. She talks about it really well, how it's tied to um, that we resist what we actually want. It's like almost like self sabotage. We really said it's like, okay, this is what I want, but I'm afraid I'm not going to get it because so limitation. And then she goes into these questions, like certain questions. I think in the video she says it's tied to what she said before in other videos, where she said, what's so bad about this? That whole quote, that whole phrase, what's so bad about this? What's so bad about losing the? Because a lot of your fears are tied to the whole like being not being unconditionally loved. It's tied to your money stuff, I would say. So if you have a belief about being unconditionally not being unconditionally loved, that means you're carrying that belief within you. You're carrying it within your energetic field. Neville Goddard talks about this one as well in the revisioning process. But it's more than that. You have to go deeper into the memory. The deeper you go into actual emotions, into the subconscious, when I say deeper, it's not really deeper, to be honest, but that's what we call it. So the deeper you go, the further you'll realize, oh, actually, through the emotions, okay? Through the emotions, the more you'll realize it's like, oh, wait a second. I can't believe I believe that. Right. So bring to the conscious. So I'll give you an example of my, what did I have here? I think it was through that exercise. Sorry, Rahul, I know you had a question. I hope you're still there. Um, Before we go though, I want to add this to the live. Rahul, let me go back to your thing here. Business, okay. You don't know your time. Oh, that's a okay. Yeah, we can work with the asteroids if you don't know your time. But I'll have to see though. Okay. But let me, okay. If I use a puppet, I don't know what you mean by that. I hope you're being sarcastic. I do have a puppet, but it's not really puppet. It's for children's stuff. All right. So what was I got lost here? Yeah. So being unconditionally accepted. Oh yeah, the Teal Swan video. Okay, she talks about how um, the reason we have our beliefs about money is tied to our beliefs about not getting what we want. So not, no, we're not mm, we're not being in our best interests at heart. We're not living in accordance to the best. We don't have our own best interests at heart. So this is what happens when um, yeah, I grew up bilingual, so that's part of the whole process. Okay. Let's see here. What did I have here? There was something there. I wrote down my beliefs about things. Where did I write that down? So I want to share my experiences just so you know. Uh, that the one? Nope. Charlotte. Nope, that's not the one. Oh, there's an actual 3-day. I think there's a 3-day thing where she talks about self-love. Let me see if this is the one. This was live March 14 to 18. Let's see if we have this here. Hold on one second. She had an event. I think you can still apply to it. It was like a free 3-day event. And if you want to do the whole course, you can. Okay, this is all I find right now. Okay, here we go. Okay, yes, you were being sarcastic. Okay, got it. Yeah, I can't find what I wrote for myself, but that's okay. Basically, it's helping you go into. Here you go. Like, here you go. So it says here, one of the things was that I went through was like, the want that I had was, here's an example. I want to have more than enough to pay for the things in my life that I want for me to meet my basic needs and those around me. I want to have and feel like I know that I have financial security just in case. Right? And then the block was, if I were to maintain this belief to preserve my idea of someone or my view of someone, who would that someone be? What I came up with, I have to work for others in order to earn a living. Maintaining this belief is preserving my view of my parents and teachers in the past who have believed themselves that I had to get an education and work I work hard to work for society and its constituents. Working for others means that I get the approval of my parents and teachers so that I belong, and belonging makes me feel not only safe but also seen. But the question was, then I asked myself the question, what do I see myself? Alternative evidence. I've taught classes in astrology, languages, and music, whether free or paid. I've helped others learn some astrology, languages, and music, and it all paid off because I was genuinely helping them. And then that genuineness also came from the desire to showcase my skills, whether or not they approved of it. So and then what I came up with here was I can work for myself, even if I have something on the side that's a job for others. I do this right now, my own business and classes. Okay. So that's one thing. That's a belief. So Teal Swan tends to do that. She goes into what your actual belief is, and then what you like. First of all, like why you believe them, whose image you're maintaining of, when it comes to that, and what that would preserve. What would feed that belief. Then you look into your life now. What have I done now that actually contradicts that? Something like that. There's a longer process than that. But yeah, so Teal Swan stuff like really goes to that stuff. So look into that self-love class course. I don't know if you can pay for it. Um, Look up Teal Swan's free courses, or go to her YouTube channel. Like I put it in here already. Teal Swan. Just type it up. Teal Swan, and um, she has a lot of stuff that she offers, how to go through things, how to deal with emotions, shadow work, many, many, many things. A lot of it is tied to shadow work. So, and going to your inner child beliefs. Okay, Rahul. Okay, let me try to put this in here. Okay, let's change this one here. And you said was February 18, 1991. And then you said you don't know your time of birth. Like, Karachi. Okay. Okay. So let's take a look. Your question was then. Okay, that's a big one. What do you want to know, though, Rahul? My lips are dry. Is that scene from Little Mermaid where Sebastian goes, "You poco your lips." Never mind. If you guys like Disney stuff, depends. For me, I do. I like the older ones. Oh yeah, starting a business. Sorry, that's right. Okay, this one's challenging because you don't have your houses in here, and you said early morning. That could be any time. Here, what I'll do? If you can connect with me on Facebook, I'll put it in here, and message me. I hope you can. If not, go to Instagram. I don't usually use Instagram, but you can if you want to. Look up Starman Jose. That's on Instagram. I'll put it in here. I think it's at Starman. I don't know, something like that. Or on TikTok. It's just Starman Jose. Okay. My face should be there. Message me if you have any questions. But Rahul, you can message me later if you find your time of birth. But for now, let's see what we get with the chart with no houses. Because houses determine specifically where in your life this applies to, an aspect of yourself applies to. So it'd be challenging if it was like for business, like it's because it's kind of specific, but I'll do my best. Okay, I'm gonna go into, let's see here. So I'm gonna go into your Jupiter. Oh, Jupiter is tied to Penelope and Ganymede. Okay. Penelope is, let me see here. Oh goodness. Okay, you have your sun in the anaretic degree of Aquarius. So you really want change. Like there's a desire for real change for you. Um and how you express yourself is very, like there's an intensity about you. You want things to be so different and sort of like very humanitarian. Like you just want things to be like change. It's very, very powerful. Um, but what I'm seeing here is that I don't know if you experience some sort of like manipulation through the relationships, people you work with, or something like that, or people in your life. It's like there's a lot of like, I don't know, maybe they feel like you're very smart. One of your, what is this one here? Oh, you carried a lot of your woundings from your life, your past life, regarding home and security. But that means that you're able to deal with emotions head on. Like it's almost like you just know emotions. You just, let me look further into your, okay, so Penelope, Ganymede, I'm going to keep that in mind. Oh, if you follow your north node, it's down here, it's Cyrene. Cyrene is the sirens. So there's something tied to music, tied to also like, how do you call this? Attraction itself. Like when it comes to attraction, it could be sexual attraction, but forms of attraction. But it also means discipline with your emotions. That's the gift you have in your past life. Having self-control and having that whole, it's almost like you have that natural ability to how to perceive emotions. But there's something tied to how emotions are tied to addictions. It's sort of like anything to do with emotions, any form of emotion, especially the lower emotions like shame, anguish, resentment, anger, where it can lead to escapism, some sort of form of emotions. So you had to go through this quite often in your past life. You're actually a healer. You're actually a healer of families. Like you're told to it like a kind of a teacher. But you're coming into this more like in this life more to do with not to teach people, but to draw people into you so that you can show them how to work with their own emotions, self-control. That also includes sexual power, okay, their sexuality, pleasure itself. I'm not sure if you're drawn to any sort of teaching of sex, or not. Again, it's not necessarily about sex. It's about sexual power, creative powers of things, right? And how you have that wisdom to go about that, to how to work with your physical body, because Cyrene here is actually conjunct your north node in Capricorn. So that means there's something tied to the body, specifically skin. So there's something about the skin and the bones and how you can use that to. I don't know if you do any sort of um, if you worked somewhere where there's like warnings, like you give warnings to people, something to do with like um, oh, prophecies as well. There's a potential for that as well, for prophetic abilities to be able to show people. But I think it's more physical for you. So it's something to do with your clairsentience or something like with the physical body. If you sense pink something in people, how you help them also express themselves, how you help them find the wisdom from within. So again, it's something to do with that. But also again, going back to the voice, you're singing or something like that. Um, Music that helps them go back into their inner selves, maybe to help them with emotional trauma, lacking of sexual power, lacking of ability to trust their own creativity, those kind of things. Um, but more like drawing them into you. That's your gift. One of your gifts you can learn right now is to draw them into you and be magnetic by just being yourself and being that kind of teacher, that natural healer. Um, or you maybe have lost family somehow, or lost connections or emotional connections, that you can draw that in to and show people that it's like your wounding becomes your gift. Your wounding becomes your wisdom, wounding to wisdom, right? Your curses can become cures, if that makes sense. Okay. It's not really a curse, but if you believe it is, that's how it works. Okay. Magnetism, again, something to do with magnetism here, right? Uh, Sometimes things are short term, and that's okay. Things don't really last, and that's fine. You're learning from that still, I believe, or you have been learning from that, and you know how to handle that stuff. It's almost like shadow work came to you naturally. Um, Watch out for extremes, though. That's what I'm seeing here. Um, but really working through emotional balance. Let's see here. You can work also with if you've gone through a lot of emotional extremes in your life, that'll help you understand that it's okay to live life because you've gone through those extremes already, especially emotionally related, but also physically. Like it shows here, extreme sports, um, skydiving, stuff, scuba diving, even, or just being something simple. It doesn't have to be extreme. Something to do with the moon as well. It says here something about silver moons and moonlights, mirages, optical illusions. So you're trying to show people the illusions within the body, any sort of beliefs they have about their body. Also tying this to, hold on, let me double check here. No. Tying this to being, well, you can still be a teacher, but in this case, you're more like, I guess you can see a disciplined teacher. You're learning about how to deal with fears. Your fear is tied a lot to being misunderstood, being ostracized by the world. So, because of your past experiences with loss of connections, you're learning how to accept part of that as like, it's okay. There are people who will accept me for me, anyways. So, you need a weird crowd. You need a crowd that's very highly creative, something that's that understands creativity deeper in the sexual level, if that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So the business is tied to that. Your business is tied to, again, I don't have your houses here, so I don't know where your Jupiter applies to, but your Jupiter retrograde in Leo shows me that your um, growth of expansion, how you even deal with business or your own beliefs about things, has a lot to do with you're questioning it a lot, right? You're doubting your own ability to grow. But what that also means is the gift behind that is that you can um, figure out what is real for you in terms of your own inspiration. Maybe something again to do with music, something to do with performing, something to do with not necessarily performing in front of others, but like being a leader, an example to others by showing them that it's like it's okay to be weird, it's okay to be creative, going deeper. Again, it's something to do with emotional security, emotional sexual security within yourself, right? And showing the world that it's like, I know what I'm talking about. Even though they might see you as like kind of like, maybe you're not. Is your moon in Aries? Yeah. Okay, your moon is in Aries. That means so moon in Aries, yeah. It might have come in like pretty strong for others. Um, and that's okay. Um, Let me look at the degrees theory here. Hold on 1 second. Where's the degree theory? 1 second here. Hmm. Okay, I'll just look into that later. That's fine. Okay, so there's that. So when it comes to you also have like fears about jobs, like being able to keep them, not necessarily keeping them, but there's something about, because a lot of your winning comes from security, right? But that kind of security is tied to, what is it tied to here? It's tied to your security of yourself. It's not so much your jobs. So if you can accept that your complete weirdness and accept part of that shadow, that'll help you. Okay. Um, let's see here. I know that sometimes there's a part of you that gets kind of impatient. Like um there's you can use that to your advantage. Maybe there's just some you need to surround yourself with people who are okay with your high energy. Okay. Um and being able yeah, work with what you got, work with your strengths. So in terms of business, I know you probably want like a direct answer. I know people always go to astrologers as if like they actually have the answer. Well, if I gave you the answer, I would be disempowering you because I'm just feeding you what you need to do when in fact maybe it doesn't light you up. It doesn't resonate with you. So you ask yourself, what resonates with me? Because I know that you do want some things that are different. You want things that are very different and unique and out of this world, that kind of stuff. But perhaps you need to do it little by little and find inspiration in those little things. Does that make sense? Mm. Let's see what else you got in the North Node here. Okay, your Jupiter is tied to Hecate and Circe. There's a part of you that kind of wonders whether you should go into probably something like with um, timeless, things that are kind of timeless, having boundaries as well. So maybe there's a part of you that doesn't want to have boundaries, but I think you need to learn how to have boundaries. You are learning about boundaries. That's the gift of Saturn. Saturn is not necessarily about fear. Saturn is fear, but the only reason we have fear is because we believe that the unknown is dangerous. Well, the unknown is the unknown, so that could be anything, right? How do you know if you're going to go into it unless you don't go into it? Like it doesn't have to be extreme. Whatever our fears are, it doesn't have to be something we fear as long as we take necessary steps towards it. Because trusting the process has to do a lot with just trusting the moment, right? So Circe here and Hecate is conjunct your Jupiter. They're still also in retrograde. You also have here Artemis, something to do with your inner nature, going out in nature. There's something about being in the natural world for you, something about being in the natural world and having fun with that. That's probably tied to your business, something that's natural elements. It could be magic, could be witchcraft. I don't know. That's up to you, right? Because Artemis and all those things are tied to more like nature stuff. Circe, Artemis, and Hecate are tied to natural things, tied to embracing also your multi-talentedness. Embrace that you have lots of gifts. Maybe that's part of your business as well. You can go into a business where you showcase all of your gifts. Maybe not all of them. Maybe you need boundaries and say, this is the ones that you feel. So go with the ones that you feel can help others, but focus less on others first, focus on yourself first, right? Um, because if you're not healing part of yourself first, if you're not filling your cup first, if you're not nourishing yourself, how can you nourish others? You can't pour water out of a jug if there's no water in it. Better yet, you, there can be no waterfall if there is no circulation of water. I know that sounds a little weird. It's not really quote beautiful. It's not a cutesy, beautiful quote or anything like that. Who cares? The point is, right? So you got to have boundaries, but you also have to have, so guard your heart, guard your heart. That's something you're learning already, I believe. But at the same time, be open to things that are natural for you so that whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you excited, go with Bashar's formula. Follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability with no insistence whatsoever of what the outcome ought to be. But at the same time, processing everything through beliefs that you have. If you have limiting beliefs, there's a reason they're there. What does it mean when you have this belief about something? Oh, maybe because you're afraid of something. A belief is something that creates, it moves direction, it creates momentum, right? So it either makes you grow or it doesn't make you grow. But it doesn't mean that when I say it makes you grow, I don't just mean like general grow. I mean in any given moment. Your highest excitement could be waking up. It could be peeing in the bathroom when you haven't peed for hours. It could be your dish. It could be an actual project. It could be just smiling at the neighbor. It could be something else. It depends. It varies every single moment. That's why you have to trust the process, trust the moment. So your business related to this has a lot to do with, it's okay to have set boundaries. It's okay to have, when I say boundaries, I don't mean like fuck everybody else. I mean what you want for yourself, what you truly, what lights you up, and that changes every moment. Or maybe it doesn't change every moment, but it's still every moment. Everything that has been done, everything that has been all around spirituality or whatever it is. I don't see spirituality as like, oh, it's a community, oh, it's this and that. Doesn't matter. There's spirituality in everything. But everything I noticed for myself that has that I always go back to everything that has been I've heard myself and seen and experienced within spirituality or actual spirituality boils down to one thing: the present. We're not just talking about time. I mean, your attention comes to what's happening right now. That's why you see this intensity, this passion that comes through when I'm speaking, because I'm focused not only on the reading, but what's coming through. When we do channeling, as in not just channeling like, oh, Daryl Anka channeling or Lee Harris channeling. No, I mean channeling what it inspires us when we do music, when we draw, when we work, when we talk, when we write things, anything. When it feels inspired, it's just like it just keeps going, and then time passes, becomes timeless. That is exactly what I meant by the timelessness. So you need to go into the timelessness of your experiences in any given moment in the present moment. It isn't about time. Actually, this is about going back to your essence that is in the moment. The moment dictates that what has happened is an experience. The moment dictates that what will happen is yet to happen and is not there yet. So why exist in those paradigms? Why exist in the past as memories? We can use memory. We can use projection into the future to envision what we want and then focus on that, but putting it into the present and say, oh, what little thing can I do right now to get into that direction? This isn't calculative. This isn't methodical. It's just being in the present moment. Be like a child. That is the key here, Raul. Okay. Be a child. Be like a child. Embrace your creativity. Embrace that quirky, the desires you have about, you know, And then it doesn't have to be ideal. It doesn't have to be toward, I'm going to go here. This is my, no. Have long-term goals by all means. Sure, have long-term goals, but don't make it about the goal. Make it about the present moment. So I hope that helps. Okay. Your things will come to you because there's so many possibilities with your business. There's so many, but a lot of them is tied to IP layers, boundaries and timelessness and nature. There's actually a third option. There's something about nature. There's something about being in touch with your inner nature. Okay. Don't be afraid of the things that you come across. People will you meet, the right ones will come along because you've embraced in yourself what the ones that you didn't want, what you didn't prefer, that you've learned from. If you learn from those and say, oh, what gift can I find in that, what that person is mirroring in me? Like if someone doesn't accept you or what you do or how it is, or you just don't resonate with them and they're mirroring onto you, they're saying that, oh, da da da. Like, for example, they don't like your style of communication. If that triggers you, it's just like, what does that mean? Instead of being a reactive, respond instead. Right? That's what responsibility is. It's the ability to respond. Okay? So shadow work is still important. All of us actually are being called to shadow work right now. Pluto in Aquarius signifies humanity having need to go into shadow work, finding what's real. That's why people are looking for things that are genuine. They're looking within. They're looking for things that are general. So when it comes to business for you, Rahul, your business, yeah. So yeah, your business is tied to that because what's inside will manifest outside. It's not the other. It's not the opposite way. It's not an outside inside job. It's inside outside. We keep forgetting that. Why? Because we're so caught up with the outside world. Go within. Okay, your overall health. Um, let's see. Let's go over the transits right now. Okay, I'm gonna go with. Again, I don't have your houses, so I don't know if this actually pertains to your health. Whatever I'm getting here is what I'm going to get. Okay. Let's start with this one first. Okay. Oh, I lost my promise to myself. Message me on Rahul. Message me on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook if you can. Okay, follow me there. Because it wouldn't be fair to the others. I did one reading for them. Okay, I know you have a question, but the post does say one person, one question, one reading per person. Okay, and I'm just being fair to everybody, including myself. Okay, I'm not trying to diss you, but just message me separately just for the event. And I've already gone over time. Okay, I've gone already 2 hours. Yes, just reach out to me. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. That was okay. That I went 2 hours. That's all okay. But I have to honor myself, just as I recommend everybody to honor themselves as well. Okay. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. You have my contact. Message me or any of my posts here on YouTube, whatever it is. If you guys are coming from Meetup, there's other events as well. I have one coming this Friday. Um, for that event. It's like with astrology. It's kind of like this. There's a $5 entry. So I think you can pay directly through Meetup or you can pay through PayPal. I think I put it in there. By the way, message me. Um, I'm not going to put my PayPal stuff here. PayPal stuff. I'm not going to put it here because it's a security thing. Um, somehow somehow will happen. But I gave you my Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Hopefully I see you there. But there will be other events as well. So no rush. But the key here, the one thing you can get away from that is always look from within. Go within, go within, go within. Find your inner child again. Right now, we're going through a Virgo South Node placement right now in North Node in Pisces. Humanity is being called to look at the little things without being pedantic or anal or Puritan. Like, we're looking into it more like calculatively, a bit of through science, and actually integrating. That's the important thing right now. We're being called to integrate everything we see, everything we mirror, right? So that when the South Node moves into Leo, we will be again in touch with our own creativity. Okay, this isn't an absolute. There are people who probably be like, I have no idea what I'm still doing. That's fine. You don't need to be where other people are. You just need to be where you are, exactly where you are right now in any given moment. Okay, and you'll see. Look up Bashar stuff. Look at Teal Swan stuff. Look at Eckhart Tolle stuff. Okay, Eckhart Tolle. If there's anyone I would go to for anything and always be in the present, it's Eckhart Tolle. That's who I. That's how I go to. Right? 'Cause it's all tied to it, even to shadow work. Because when you're in the moment, and you're in the moment with the emotions, you go into that emotion. You're into the moment with the situation, someone mirroring onto you what they don't like about you or you don't like about them. The shadow work still comes through in the present moment. Mediumship, psychic ability, channeling, it's still in the present moment. Questions in astrology, the things I do, it's still in the present moment. Everything ties to in the present moment. That's all there is. That's the absolute truth. That is the actual reality of realities. Right? So I know I sound convicted when I say that. I have my convictions about that, but that's what it is. It's really what it is. It's like a child. Pretend you are as what's his name? There's this guy. I forgot what his name is. Pretend you were born today and you're dying today. You just come in. Everything's temporary. If that helps, I know that's a weird exercise, but right, because you come in with nothing and you leave with nothing, and yet you are everything. I think Cinnamon, you heard me say this in the other group. Yeah. Anyways, that's it for now. I gotta go, guys. I gotta go make lunch. And thank you for coming. It was a pleasure to be of service. Um, let me know what you have any questions, like I said before, and I'll see you guys later. Have a very good day.